All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first match in our best of 5 semifinal between Cubit32, Veivi, Blues, and Deathtacticus. And Soren, you make it in okay? You good to go over there? All right, excellent. So, what are you seeing around this map?
There's a lot of resources on this map.
Yeah.
You kind of go anywhere you want, basically. Which means I think we're going to see a very late found. Unless, is there one super spot somewhere I'm not seeing?
There are some nice mixes that I'm seeing of generally, you know, aluminum and iron, but nothing I'm seeing that you absolutely have to have.
I was about to say that this would be a great scientific spot where the robotic just dropped, where Deathtacticus did.
Yeah, most of these guys don't seem to like the scientific. In the 2v2.
I understand scientific in a team game doesn't seem to be favored, but I don't know. All right, double scab. All right, that's interesting.
Yep.
There's plenty of carbon on the map, so...
There is. No high carbons, but nice, good patches with medium tiles spread about them. And especially this one really nice area for Cubit to be easy plus access to aluminum, water, carbon.
Yeah, plus no underground nukes.
Yeah. And no underground nukes is going to be a big deal. On top of that, we see dynamite and mutinies and power surges and slowdown strikes. So it should be a fairly effective black market for the scavenger to be able to utilize.
Yep.
All right. Man, and already we actually see that Deathtacticus has protected, or likely Blues protected Deathtacticus metal mine. Just already worried about protecting that high iron tile, making sure that the robot's not going to get shut down by the scavengers.
Yep.
Game's moving along pretty quickly already. Everybody up at HQ level 2.
It's interesting to see the split steel mills for Deathtacticus. I mean, these guys know what's up.
Oh, so. Yeah. They definitely want to avoid those power surges destroying them.
Blue's already grabbed a tile for the potential pleasure dome.
Yep. And he's hoping for 3 adjacency bonuses, which is definitely a functional pleasure dome. No question about that.
It's not amazing, though.
But there are 2 scavengers on this map, and so that pleasure dome is going to potentially be a lot more valuable than we've seen so far this tournament.
That's a good point. It's interesting, though, because that spot would have gotten filled up pretty quickly, which means that normally I think you should only claim a spot that early if you feel like you better or the opponent will, and I don't think that spot was quite good enough to justify that. But
possibly. And another thing that it's done is if Cubit and Veivi want to take a Pleasure Dome spot, they can actually guaranteed restrict that Pleasure Dome to 2 occupied tiles and likely go ahead and get the 3 adjacency for themselves. So that is definitely something they're going to have to think about. I love this move out of Blues and Deathtacticus. They actually have their expansive player being the one to build the geothermal power.
Yeah, that's
finally
smart.
We see someone doing that. I mean, it's half price.
That's something I screwed up, I think, in the tournament.
I think that's something everybody has screwed up so far in the tournament. But seriously, they saved 120 steel just by being like, all right, you take it, Mr. Expansive. That's okay.
60 steel. Not
120 between the 2 geotherms they've got online.
Oh, they built 2. Oh.
Yeah, they've got 2.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's 3.
Oh, do they have 3 now? 3 building? Oh, they do have 3. Ridiculous. So even more than that, 180 steel. 180 steel.
I love being able to watch the team chat, although there's not a whole lot of it yet.
Yeah, not a lot of team chat going on. I'm hoping these guys are to the point of mostly using voice chat, as that does seem quite helpful.
It's bad for us, but I'm sure it'll be good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, mutinies are starting to be used against these geotherms. Makes quite a lot of sense. Cubit's trying to tear through his debt quickly, start making money off of that.
Well, I'm going to have to drop out for once.
Alright, go ahead.
The black market is online.
That phone ring. Alright guys, we're back on our own once again. We do see there has been quite a bit of power established for both teams, it looks like. Cubit really trying hard to tear through his debt, but power, it was dropping in price very rapidly. Both teams wanting to get a handle on that, make sure power didn't get out of control in favor of the other. But we do see, in fact, a power shortage is going to be coming out, raising that price just a bit. So they'll be able to hold on, kind of effectively push through things. A bit of an awkward thing to note is that Veivi does have a solitary solar panel just kind of sitting out, doing not a whole lot for himself, considering he still has almost $17,000 of debt, but that might help out with Cubit a bit, depending on exactly how they're managing sharing power right now. As you can see, Cubit not sharing power with Veivi, just trying to make sure to take up every last little bit of an advantage they can acquire. This claim being bid on by Veivi and Deathtacticus for the same reasons as power is being utilized in the way that it is. Just they're trying to make sure that they can get a hold of that claim themselves without costing their ally their source of income from that power geotherm heavy market. Extra claim did go on over to Deathtacticus. Nothing too surprising there. Robotics almost always better at absorbing debt than any other faction. Another important thing to note at this point is that Blues has managed to push into food, making an awful lot of money for himself at the moment, whereas Cubit and Veivi don't really have anything that's quite at that level. The glass furnaces are nice for them, certainly making a fair amount of money, and the reactors are also nice, making a fair amount of money, so perhaps they have managed to kind of make up for that potential weakness, not having access to these farms and that food production, by just having more general production, because of course they are scavengers. They don't have to commit basically an entire person to making steel. Instead, they're just gathering up what carbon they can, what carbon they need to, in particular from Veivi down in this bottom corner, who has 4 carbon tiles taken and then just 1 for Cubit, which overall has them generating almost 9 carbon a second. Certainly leaves them in a good spot to kind of spread their production out a bit more, make sure they're in more markets, even if they are perhaps a little bit weaker in the moment. Everybody's gotten up to HQ level 4 right now. Not too much of a lead for Blues and Deathtacticus, but they were the ones to both reach HQ level 4 first. Slowdown strikes being utilized, trying to make sure not to run into any goon squads, while they're keeping down glass production, food production, all kinds of little details here and there. Also worth noting is that Blues did manage to hide a patent office from his opponents and go ahead and pick up virtual reality to go with his Pleasure Dome, which has all of its adjacency bonuses going now. And we can see that that Pleasure Dome is picking up a good solid $710 per second. So that is by far the best tile on this map, and likely the best tile this map is ever going to see. Let's see if we can check Offworld prices. Offworld prices are not particularly astounding, which makes that Pleasure Dome all the more important. Better than most Offworlds right now is what that tile is. Veivi and Cubit are almost certainly going to have to do something about it to make sure that this thing doesn't get completely out of control. Pick up Skype. Alright, Soren's apparently back. There we go. Hey, you're back.
Hey, I'm back.
I'll try and keep things in a position where I can see you if you have to drop in and out again.
Problem.
There was a little Marsquake we saw coming in, so that's just going to push things even more ridiculously. Did you spot, Soren, the Pleasure Dome?
No, what's that? Ooh, 764.
Yeah.
Looking pretty good.
Nothing too surprising about that with virtual reality, which Blues did a nice job of hiding with the hologram. Just looking like a water pump right now is what that thing's doing.
Oh,
or was at the time. It's underneath. Yeah, his patent lab is gone now,
Nice.
but it was where that water pump is now.
That's a pretty novel use of the hologram. That's interesting.
No, it was a good job. It didn't look like Cubit and Veivi had any clue where that patent office was, or they would have done something about it.
Yep.
And now you can see that Blues and Deathtacticus have picked up a really nice, solid lead. And I think most of that's just going to be based around this Pleasure Dome in terms of making money. Everything else is doing okay, but let's be honest, nothing compares to that Pleasure Dome right now, and Cubit's only just now getting his constructed.
Oh,
Instantly popped.
Yeah, they should have gotten that second Pleasure Dome up a lot faster.
A lot faster.
I think in a two-sided game, like if one side puts up a Pleasure Dome, you got to get another one up. That's just how it is.
Absolutely. Pleasure Dome's worth way too much to just go ahead and let it go. Nobody's really committed to stock just yet, interestingly enough, but
that's why they blew up the geotherm. The power price is still nothing to...
Yeah, power price is very weak. Blowing up a geotherm is definitely a questionable decision. It is very far away, difficult to repair, but I mean, you can always just choose not to, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think that would have made a lot more sense. Finally, we do see some aggression in the stock market, which is definitely going to hurt Cubit and Veivi very, very badly. I mean, they don't have the money to scrape together to really hold on here very effectively. And on top of that, any money they're committing that direction is not getting Veivi upgraded, is not pushing into a hacker array, so on and so forth from there. Tools they can utilize to actually win the game. So I'm very concerned about where Cubit and Veivi are at this point. And more power surges coming down, going to shut down that chemical production that they were relying on to make money. They still have decent sources of cash here and there, but they cannot keep this Pleasure Dome online. Nice job mutinying away their opponent's Pleasure Dome. definitely need to be abusing their scavenger advantage heavily throughout the entire rest of this match if they want to have any hope of staying alive, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, that's too much stock.
There's just too much of a stock deficit. I don't know how you come back from that effectively at this stage of the game. It's not like that Pleasure Dome's profits are ever going down.
Yeah. If you look at the charts, Blues has made 175,000 off Pleasure Dome. Cubit's made 8,000.
Yeah, nothing too surprising about that at all. I mean, Pleasure Dome just left uncontested that picks up virtual reality will absolutely dominate a game. There's no question about that. It is the single strongest building you can build. In most games, even with just 4 players, it'll outdo an Offworld market. So you gotta watch out for it. Absolutely. Electronic shortage is a nice move. I don't know if that one, it does look like it was hacked out by Deathtacticus. Just looking like a chemical lab right now is that hack array. The electronics were a nice decision, certainly to pick up a lot of cash, as his opponents aren't making it at all. Just a very nice, easy, simple move. Then he filters that money on over to Blues after making the electronics himself, and he leaves Blues in a fantastic position to go ahead and clean up this game, which I imagine is going to happen pretty quickly here. Veivi's still down at HQ level 4. No money in the hands of Cubit and Veivi whatsoever. Blues, of course, still raking in all the cash in the world with these constant electronic shorts. And when he can hold on to this Pleasure Dome, also it's doing a very nice job for him.
Yep.
Oh, man. I don't know if there's much more to talk about this one, which is kind of awkward. Like, usually one team will just kind of focus down a member of the other team, make sure to wipe them out, and then like the second one will just generally concede. But Blues didn't do that this time. He just said, nah, we have such a massive lead, I'm going to buy whoever I want whenever I want. And now we can see he's finally taken down Veivi.
The black market is online.
Just needs 324,000. Cubit is going to give it up at that point. 1 HQ to 3. Very reasonable decision. So the first game in our best of 5 is going to go on over to well, the virtual reality Pleasure Dome players of Deathtacticus and Blues. Just a nice, clean, solid win for them, really. It looked like Cubit and Veivi had an advantage for a while, but once they let that Pleasure Dome get down and out of control, there's nothing you can do.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I think they should have got Pleasure Dome up earlier. Even if the other side gets
absolutely.
virtual reality, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you have to cut into that somehow.
I mean,
that's
you
really
can
the only
even
effective
you can
way
even
to
put
do
a
it.
Pleasure Dome next to your own headquarters, and know that you're going to use it for something else eventually. Like, you don't have to fully commit and grab one next to the colony. You will hurt the other player just as much if it's next to your HQ as if it's next to the colony.
Yeah, for sure. I still would have loved to see them put it down. We did see a moment in that game where there weren't all 3 adjacency bonuses established for that initial Pleasure Dome location that Blues had already committed to. And I really would have loved to see a claim go down right next to that Pleasure Dome, cut off the potential 3 adjacency bonuses, just leave it down at 2, get the potential 3 for yourself established.
Right.
And we could have seen that combined with getting down a Pleasure Dome a lot earlier. We could have seen a pretty significantly different game going on there. But Cubit and Veivi just were not prepared for that move, not respecting the Pleasure Dome enough.
Yep. All right, let's get into the next one.
Yeah. I was going to take one last look very quickly and see if I could figure out where all of Blue's money came from, if it was just the Pleasure Dome or if other things contributed pretty heavily. You can see they also made a lot, it looks like, by shorting chems and electronics consistently. Just maintaining that production for themselves by freezing out their opponent's chem production as well. So that was also a nice move. Alright,